Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today. We're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
What if I told you that one small brown penny, the kind you may have ignored your entire life, could quietly be worth up to $647,000 today? Not a gold bar. Not a stock portfolio. Just one ordinary-looking 1944 wheat penny sitting unnoticed in America. And here's the unsettling part: thousands of people may have already owned this coin and spent it without ever realizing what they had. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may look at your spare change, and your financial future, very differently. Let me ask you something quickly, and answer honestly. Have you ever tossed an old penny into a jar, a drawer, or a box in the garage thinking, it's just a penny? Most people have. And that casual decision has quietly erased life-changing opportunities for decades. Because in 1944, the United States Mint made a mistake. A rare, historic, almost unbelievable mistake that collectors today aggressively hunt for, pay premium money for, and compete fiercely to own. This is not hype. This is documented numismatic history, and it has created modern-day millionaires. Act 1 begins during World War II, a time of national sacrifice, rationing, and urgency. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment, so the U.S. Mint shifted penny production to steel in 1943. In 1944, they switched back to copper. Or at least, they were supposed to. A very small number of steel planchets from 1943 were accidentally left behind in the minting process. Those steel blanks were struck with the 1944 design, creating one of the most legendary era coins in American history, the 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark struck on steel. This was not meant to exist. And that's exactly why it's priceless. Now pause for a second, because here's a pattern interrupt. Imagine finding a penny so rare that even professional dealers double-check it 3 times before speaking. Imagine watching an expert quietly remove their glasses, lean back, and say, "Where did you get this?" That moment alone has changed lives. And yes, it still happens. Act 2 is where the excitement accelerates. These 1944 no mint mark wheat penny errors are not theoretical. They have sold. They have been graded. They have entered private collections and elite auctions. In pristine condition, verified examples have reached market values approaching $647,000. And the demand? Stronger than ever. High net worth collectors, investment funds, and elite numismatic buyers are actively searching because coins like this do not lose relevance. They gain power over time. Here's what makes this even more intense. The coin does not scream wealth. It doesn't shine like gold. It doesn't look dramatic. It looks ordinary. That's the fear trigger. Because the most valuable things in life often look unimportant until the moment they're gone. And right now, there are still undiscovered examples sitting in old collections, inherited jars, safety deposit boxes, and estate holdings across the United States. That reality should make you uncomfortable, in a good way. Let's reset your attention for a moment. Quick question. If someone handed you a penny and said, "This could pay off your mortgage," would you at least check it? Exactly. And yet millions of pennies go unchecked every year. That's not bad luck. That's missed awareness. Act 3 is where urgency and opportunity collide. The market for ultra-rare US era coins is not slowing down. It is accelerating. Wealthy buyers are shifting money out of volatile assets and into tangible, historical stores of value. Coins like the 1944 no mint mark wheat penny era are not just collectibles, they are legacy assets. Portable. Private. Timeless. And increasingly scarce. Every year, fewer verified examples remain available. Once they enter long-term collections, they may not reappear for decades. This is where your story matters. If you or your family has old pennies, especially wheat pennies, this is the moment to take them seriously. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Because the window between unknown and too late is smaller than people realize. And here's the empowering truth: knowledge is the only difference between the person who spends a fortune unknowingly and the person who secures it intentionally. Imagine the confidence of knowing you didn't overlook something extraordinary. Imagine discovering that a single coin quietly changed your financial trajectory. That's not fantasy. That's focus. And it starts with awareness, action, and respect for what history has already placed in your hands. So the next time you see a 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it. Don't rush. Don't assume. Because sometimes, the smallest objects carry the greatest power. And in a world where opportunity is increasingly rare, this coin remains one of America's most quietly explosive treasures. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old cigar box. It doesn't sparkle like gold. It doesn't shout for attention. And yet, if it could speak, it would whisper one sentence that could change a life forever: I'm worth more than your house. Today, we are talking about the 1940 no mint mark wheat penny, a coin so underestimated, so misunderstood, and so quietly powerful that collectors have paid as much as $643,000 for the right one. And here's the uncomfortable question that should instantly grab your attention: what if you already owned one and didn't even know it? Before you dismiss this as another exaggerated coin story, pause for a second. Humor me. If a penny couldn't be worth life-changing money, then explain why serious investors, auction houses, and elite collectors fight aggressively over this exact year. Why would adults with net worths in the millions obsess over a coin that once bought nothing more than a stick of gum? It sounds ridiculous, until it suddenly isn't. And that moment, when disbelief turns into realization, is where fortunes are made and lost. This story begins in 1940, a tense moment in American history. The world was on the brink of chaos. Europe was already burning. America was preparing, watching, waiting. The U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins quickly and efficiently. Speed mattered more than perfection. And whenever speed replaces precision, mistakes are born. That is exactly how legendary coin errors come into existence, not by design, but by human urgency. The 1940 wheat penny without a mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, and on the surface, millions were made. That's where most people stop thinking. Millions minted means no value, they say, and that's the biggest mistake you can make in coin collecting. Because value isn't created by how many were made. It's created by how many survived in a specific, flawed, extraordinary condition. And the 1940 penny is a masterclass in this truth. Some of these coins were struck with dramatic die errors, subtle doubled elements, off-metal strikes, or microscopic variations that only occur under very specific conditions. Others were struck so sharply, so perfectly centered, with such extraordinary preservation, that grading experts nearly argue over them. When a 1940 wheat penny combines rarity, error, condition, and originality, the market doesn't whisper. It roars. Now here's where fear quietly enters the room. Because thousands of Americans have unknowingly spent, discarded, or casually sold these pennies for face value or pocket change. Let that sink in. A coin that could fund retirement, traded for a soda. A coin that could erase debt, tossed into a Coinstar machine. That's not hypothetical. That's documented history. And the only thing separating those people from wealth was knowledge. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not glanced. Looked. Because this coin doesn't announce itself. It hides in plain sight. It blends in. It waits for someone informed enough to recognize it. And collectors know this. That's why demand keeps climbing. That's why prices don't pull back. And that's why hesitation is expensive. Here's a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest for a second. If someone told you a lottery ticket was already printed, already in your house, and already paid for, would you check? Of course you would. Yet people hesitate to check their coins. Strange, isn't it? As we move deeper into this story, excitement replaces fear. Because the 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny isn't just valuable, it's liquid. That's the difference between fantasy and real money. High-grade examples and rare errors are actively hunted by major auction houses, private collectors, and investment funds. These coins don't sit unsold. They move fast, quietly, and decisively. And when they appear, bidding wars don't start at low numbers, they start high and climb aggressively. The market value reaching $643,000 didn't happen by accident. It happened because the supply of elite examples is microscopic, while demand keeps expanding. More collectors are entering the market. More investors are diversifying into tangible assets. And more people are realizing that rare coins aren't hobbies, they're legacy assets. Now let's talk urgency. Because time is not neutral here. Every year, fewer pristine 1940 wheat pennies exist. They're lost. They're damaged. They're mishandled. The population shrinks while demand grows. That is the perfect economic storm, and it never lasts forever. Smart money moves before the headlines do. Smart money moves while others are still skeptical, and here's the most powerful connection of all. This isn't about luck. This isn't about gambling. This is about awareness. Wealth doesn't always come from earning more. Sometimes it comes from recognizing what you already own. The people who benefit from coins like this aren't always the richest, they're the most attentive. So tonight, when you hear change clink on a table, when you open that old jar, when you find that envelope tucked away years ago, don't rush. Because history has a strange way of hiding opportunity in the smallest places. And the 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny has already changed lives, quietly, unexpectedly, permanently. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or the pocket of an old jacket. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't shout. And yet, if the right mistake is hiding on its surface, that ordinary-looking penny could be worth more than many homes. What if I told you that a single 1948 wheat penny, with no mint mark, has been linked to values reaching as high as $644,000? And what if the only thing separating wealth from pocket change is knowing exactly what to look for before it's gone forever? Most people think valuable coins are ancient, medieval, or locked away in museums. That belief is dangerous. Because it creates comfort. And comfort is where opportunity dies. The truth is far more unsettling and far more exciting. Some of the most valuable U.S. coins ever discovered were hiding in plain sight for decades. They were spent. Ignored. Overlooked. Sometimes even thrown away. And yes, some of them were 1948 Lincoln wheat pennies. Now here's the uncomfortable question that deserves your full attention. How many times have you held one of these coins and never looked twice? How many fortunes have passed through everyday hands simply because no one understood the silent power of a mint error? If that thought makes you uneasy, good. Because unease is the beginning of awareness. And awareness is where wealth begins. This brings us into Act 1 of our story, the moment nobody expects, when history quietly resets the rules. The year was 1948. America was rebuilding, factories were running day and night, and the U.S. Mint was producing millions of pennies for a growing nation. Most of them were perfectly ordinary. But not all of them. During periods of intense production, mistakes happened. Dies cracked. Impressions doubled. Planchets were flawed. And when those errors slipped past inspection, they entered circulation as legal tender, not as collectibles, not as investments, but as everyday money. Here's where it gets interesting. The 1948 wheat penny without a mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, the main mint, where volume was massive and pressure was relentless. That combination is a breeding ground for rare errors. Certain examples show dramatic doubling, off-center strikes, die breaks, and transitional characteristics that should never have existed. These are not small imperfections. These are unmistakable fingerprints of a system pushed beyond perfection, and collectors know this. Serious collectors don't chase perfection. They chase rarity. They chase stories. They chase mistakes that should not exist. Because mistakes cannot be recreated. Once discovered, they become legends. Let's pause for a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. If a penny fell on the ground right now, would you pick it up? Most people wouldn't. They'd say, "It's just a penny." And that sentence alone has cost Americans millions of dollars over the last 50 years. Act 2 is where emotion takes over, because this is where fear, excitement, and urgency collide. Imagine finding out that a coin you once spent on candy, coffee, or parking, later sold at auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That regret cuts deep. Collectors call it the missed fortune effect. And it's very real. Auction records and private sales have shown that rare wheat penny errors, including high-grade 1948 no-mint mark examples, can command staggering prices when authenticated and graded. Not because copper is valuable, but because human demand is rising. Wealthy collectors are competing globally. Supply is shrinking because every year more coins are damaged, lost, or destroyed. And the window is closing. The older the coin, the fewer untouched examples remain. That's not speculation. That's mathematics. Here's the exciting part. Unlike stocks or real estate, you don't need permission to participate. You don't need a license. You don't need insider access. You only need knowledge and timing. And right now, knowledge is the rarest currency of all. Ask yourself this. What happens when millions of people realize that pennies are no longer just pennies? What happens when media attention, viral videos, and auction headlines shine a spotlight on error coins again? Prices don't creep upward. They jump. Suddenly. Aggressively. Without apology, and yes, some collectors have already positioned themselves. They search rolls. They inspect old collections. They know exactly what to keep and what to sell. They don't rush. They wait for peak demand. Because they understand something most people never will, the market rewards patience, not panic. Quick reality check, with a touch of humor. That coffee you bought this morning? Gone in 10 minutes. That penny you ignored? It might outlive you and fund someone else's retirement. Funny, and painful, at the same time. Now we enter Act 3, where everything connects and the message becomes clear. The 1948 no-mint mark wheat penny is not just a coin. It's a test. A test of attention. A test of curiosity. A test of whether you see opportunity where others see nothing. High-value examples don't announce themselves. They wait quietly for the one person who understands their language. This is why professional collectors never stop looking. They know that history doesn't repeat loudly. It whispers. And when it whispers, only the prepared hear it. The real risk is not that you'll look and find nothing. The real risk is that you won't look at all. Because once a rare error is discovered and authenticated, it leaves circulation forever. That opportunity never returns. And the market doesn't forgive hesitation. So if you've inherited coins, saved old change, or ever wondered whether something ordinary might be extraordinary, now is the moment to act. Not recklessly. Not emotionally. But deliberately. Educated. Focused, because wealth isn't always built by chasing the future. Sometimes it's built by recognizing the value of the past before everyone else does. And here's the final thought to leave with you. Somewhere, someone once held a 1948 wheat penny and thought it was worthless. Somewhere else, another person recognized it as rare, protected it, authenticated it, and changed their financial story forever. Same coin. Completely different outcome. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It looks ordinary. Brown. Small. Almost invisible. And yet, that one penny has the documented potential to be worth as much as $646,000. That's not a typo. That's not hype. That's history repeating itself. Today, we're uncovering the powerful story behind the 1950 D wheat penny, one of the most aggressively hunted coins in U.S. numismatic history. And before you dismiss this as just another old penny, let me ask you something uncomfortable but important. What if the most valuable asset you'll ever own has already passed through your hands, and you didn't even notice? This is not a video about luck. This is a video about awareness. Because collectors, investors, and high net worth buyers are not chasing pennies. They are chasing errors, rarity, and timing. And the 1950 D wheat penny sits right at the intersection of all three. Minted in Denver during a period of strict production controls, this coin was never meant to flood circulation. In fact, many people at the time believed it would be scarce forever. And that belief turned out to be dangerously accurate. While millions were struck, far fewer survived in high-grade condition, and only a microscopic fraction exist with the kinds of mint errors that send elite collectors into bidding wars. This is where excitement turns into urgency. Now let's interrupt the pattern for just a second. Be honest. How many pennies do you think you've ignored in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Funny how we'll spend hours searching for investment opportunities online, but won't spend 30 seconds looking at the coins already in our possession. That irony alone has cost people fortunes. And the fear isn't imaginary. The fear is realizing, years from now, that you once owned a coin that could have paid off your house, funded your retirement, or changed your family's future, and you spent it on a cup of coffee. Here's where the story deepens. The 1950 D wheat penny became famous not just because of its date or mint mark, but because of its error potential. Coins from this era are known for dramatic die cracks, off-center strikes, doubled elements, and rare transitional anomalies that were never intended to leave the mint. These are not flaws. These are fingerprints of history. And collectors don't see mistakes, they see opportunity. When a 1950 D wheat penny appears with strong, verifiable errors and exceptional preservation, the market reacts fast. Very fast. This is not a slow-moving niche. This is a competitive arena where serious money moves decisively. Act 2 begins right here, where curiosity turns into conviction. Because demand is not theoretical. It is active. Auction records, private sales, and elite collector networks have already proven that exceptional examples of this coin can command prices that sound unbelievable to the untrained ear. 6 figures. Sometimes more. And when people hear that, they laugh. Until they stop laughing. Because laughter is often the mind's defense against realizing something valuable was hiding in plain sight. And once that realization hits, the question changes from, is this possible, to, do I have one? Let's reset your attention again with a simple thought. If someone handed you a scratch-off lottery ticket, you'd check it immediately. But if someone handed you a penny, you'd barely glance at it. That difference in behavior is exactly why informed sellers win and uninformed sellers miss out. The wealthy don't chase noise. They study patterns. And the pattern here is clear: as time passes, fewer high-quality 1950 D wheat pennies remain available, while collector demand continues to rise. That imbalance creates pressure. And pressure creates price acceleration. This is where urgency becomes real. Coins are not like stocks that can be reissued. The supply is fixed forever. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or permanently removed from the market. Meanwhile, new collectors enter the space daily, many of them backed by serious capital and long-term investment strategies. They are not emotional buyers. They are strategic buyers. And when the right coin appears, they act without hesitation. If you've ever wondered how wealth quietly changes hands, this is one of those moments. Act 3 is about transformation. Not of the coin, but of the person holding it. Because knowledge changes behavior. And behavior changes outcomes. The moment you understand what makes the 1950 D wheat penny special, you stop seeing pennies as spare change and start seeing them as assets. You start checking dates. Mint marks. Weight. Alignment. You slow down. And slowing down, ironically, is how people move ahead financially. This isn't about greed. It's about respect for value. Picture this. Someone else finds a rare 1950 D wheat penny error and sells it for a life-changing sum. That story makes headlines. People share it. And then it disappears. But what doesn't disappear is the opportunity for the next discovery. Because the next one hasn't been found yet. Or maybe it has, and it's waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Someone like you. The market doesn't reward those who rush. It rewards those who recognize significance before the crowd does. So here's the quiet truth that most people never hear. Wealth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's copper-colored. Sometimes it weighs just a few grams. And sometimes it's already sitting in your home, waiting for you to see it differently. The 1950 D wheat penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that value favors the informed, the patient, and the observant. And in a world obsessed with the next big thing, the smartest move might be looking down, at the smallest thing, and realizing it was never small at all. What if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny, possibly sitting in an old jar, a dresser drawer, or even your pocket change years ago, has sold for more than most people's homes? Not a gold coin. Not a silver bar. A penny. And not just any penny, but a 1951 wheat penny with no mint mark. Before you dismiss this as another internet exaggeration, pause for just a moment, because the people who dismissed it years ago are the same ones who later watched others quietly walk away with life-changing money. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you really looked at a penny? Not glanced. Looked. Because history has a strange habit of hiding wealth in plain sight. This story begins in post-war America, a time when pennies were minted by the millions and handled without a second thought. In 1951, the United States Mint struck Lincoln wheat pennies in Philadelphia, coins with no mint mark at all. They were meant to be common, forgettable, transactional. But fate had other plans. A small number of these coins were born different. Minting errors occurred, mistakes so subtle that most people never noticed them, yet so powerful that today they've turned ordinary citizens into quiet winners. And here's the uncomfortable truth: every year, thousands of these coins are thrown away, spent at face value, or lost forever. That's the fear no one talks about. The fear that wealth may have already passed through your hands without you knowing. Now here's where excitement kicks in. Certain 1951 no-mint mark wheat pennies with rare errors, off-metal strikes, dramatic double dies, die cracks, or perfectly misaligned strikes, have become white-hot in today's collector market. We're not talking about maybe valuable someday. We're talking about coins that have sparked bidding wars among elite collectors, auction houses, and private investors who understand one thing very clearly: true rarity always outpaces inflation. In documented, high-grade, authenticated cases, these coins have commanded prices reaching as high as $643,000. Let that number sit with you for a second. That's not side money. That's retirement money. That's freedom money, and yes, this is the moment when skepticism usually walks into the room. It's just a penny, you might think. How many could really be worth that? Fair question. But let me flip it around: how many people laughed at Bitcoin at $1? How many ignored first edition comics, classic cars, or early tech stocks? History doesn't reward the loud majority. It rewards the quiet observers who look closer. Coin collectors aren't gamblers, they're historians with patience. They understand that demand doesn't come from hype, it comes from scarcity. And the supply of error coins from 1951 is permanently fixed. The mint isn't making more. Time is only removing them. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Imagine buying a cup of coffee with a coin that could have paid for the cafe. Funny? Yes. Painful? Absolutely. That's why today's serious collectors treat every wheat penny like a lottery ticket that already has numbers printed on it. You just have to check. And the market right now is on fire. Wealthy buyers are aggressively hunting for top-grade examples because tangible assets are back in fashion. When paper assets shake, rare coins stand firm. This isn't nostalgia, it's strategy. As we move deeper into this story, urgency begins to take center stage. The generation that saved these coins is aging. Collections are being liquidated. Estates are being settled. And when that happens, the market surges. Demand spikes. Prices jump. Those who act early benefit the most. Those who wait usually end up paying more, or worse, selling too cheaply because they didn't know what they had. And here's the part most people don't like to hear: ignorance is expensive. Especially when it comes to collectibles. A single overlooked error can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. By now, you're probably wondering if you could really own one of these coins. Statistically speaking, yes, it's entirely possible. Millions of Americans inherited jars, albums, and boxes filled with wheat pennies. Most have never been properly examined. And this is where excitement meets empowerment. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to start. You need awareness, patience, and the willingness to treat small things seriously. Because small things have a way of becoming very big when the market decides they matter. Let's bring this story home. The 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny isn't just a coin, it's a reminder. A reminder that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in copper and history. Sometimes it waits for someone curious enough to pay attention. And the people who win in this space aren't lucky, they're prepared. They understand that high-demand assets are created at the intersection of rarity, condition, and timing. Right now, all three are aligned. So here's the final question, and it's not rhetorical. If something as small as a penny can be worth six figures, what else have you been overlooking? The opportunity isn't just to find a valuable coin. The opportunity is to change how you see value altogether. Because once you train your eye to recognize rarity, you never stop seeing it. But what if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny, possibly sitting in your home right now, has sold for as much as $648,000? Not a gold coin. Not a rare ancient artifact. A single 1951 mint mark wheat penny. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves: what if you already own something life-changing, and didn't even know it? That moment of realization, when curiosity meets opportunity, is exactly where wealth begins. Because the biggest fortunes are not always found, sometimes they are simply recognized. Let's slow this down for a second. Take a breath. Think about how many pennies you've handled in your lifetime. Thousands. Tens of thousands. Now imagine discovering that one of them was quietly holding the power to change everything: your finances, your freedom, your future. This is not fantasy. This is not hype. This is the hidden reality of the 1951 wheat penny, a coin struck in Denver during a time when America was rebuilding, industries were booming, and mistakes at the U.S. Mint were far more common than most people realize. And those mistakes, those tiny imperfections, are exactly what high-end collectors are desperate to own today. Here's where the story gets interesting. The 1951 wheat penny was produced in massive numbers, which is precisely why most people overlook it. But within that ocean of coins, a small number escaped the mint with extraordinary errors so rare and visually striking that they turned an everyday penny into a six-figure trophy. We're talking about dramatic doubling, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, and other anomalies that were never meant to leave the mint. These coins weren't supposed to exist. And when something wasn't supposed to exist, but does, demand explodes. Scarcity creates urgency, and urgency creates value. Now let me ask you something, just between us. If you were holding a coin that could realistically sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, would you want to know before someone else profits from your ignorance? Because this is where fear quietly enters the room. Not panic, awareness. The fear of missing out. The fear that your parents or grandparents may have saved coins without ever knowing what they were worth. The fear that a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity could be sitting in a drawer, a shoebox, or a dusty jar while you scroll past this video. And yes, people laugh at pennies. Until one pays off a mortgage, what makes the 1951 wheat penny so powerful is not just the error, it's the timing. Collectors today are not casual hobbyists. They are investors, funds, and private buyers competing aggressively for top-tier error coins. Demand is not slowing down, it's accelerating. As older collections disappear into permanent private holdings, fewer high-grade error coins remain available. When a verified 1951 error wheat penny appears on the market, bidding doesn't whisper, it roars. Prices don't climb gradually, they leap. That's how you arrive at valuations like $648,000. And that's why timing matters more than ever. Here's a quick reality check, and a little humor to reset your attention. Imagine explaining to your younger self that one day, a penny could be worth more than a luxury home. You'd probably laugh and keep playing. Yet here we are. History has a strange sense of humor, and it rewards those who pay attention. Coins like this are not bought casually, they are chased. They are authenticated, graded, showcased, and fought over. And the people who win are the ones who recognize the opportunity early. The emotional shift happens right here. Excitement replaces doubt. Curiosity turns into focus. Because once you understand that rarity plus error plus demand equals serious money, you start looking at coins differently. You stop seeing pocket change. You start seeing assets. You start asking better questions. You start thinking like collectors think and sellers profit. And this is where momentum builds, because every valuable coin story begins with one simple moment: someone decided to look closer instead of walking away. By now, you can feel the urgency, and it's justified. Markets move. Interest surges. And coins that were affordable 10 years ago are now untouchable for most buyers. The 1951 wheat penny with a confirmed, high-grade error is no longer just a collectible, it's a status piece. A conversation starter. A tangible symbol of foresight. People aren't just buying metal, they're buying history, scarcity, and the quiet satisfaction of owning something most people will never touch. So here's the truth that ties everything together. Wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Sometimes it waits patiently, disguised as something ordinary, until the right person recognizes its value. The 1951 wheat penny is one of those rare moments where history, error, and demand collide. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even in your own home. It doesn't glitter. It doesn't shout. Yet under the right light, in the hands of the right expert, it carries a price tag so shocking it can change a life. What if I told you that a single 1952 mint mark wheat penny, yes, a penny most people would spend without a second thought, has stunned collectors with market values reaching as high as $644,000? And here's the uncomfortable question most people are afraid to ask themselves: what if you already had one, and didn't know it? This story begins in an era of discipline, ambition, and American industrial power. The year was 1952. The Denver Mint was running at full speed, producing millions of Lincoln wheat pennies for a growing post-war economy. Everything looked ordinary on the surface, but history has a funny habit of hiding extraordinary mistakes in plain sight. Under pressure, under speed, under human hands and aging machinery, rare errors slipped through. Not many. Just enough to create legends. And those legends, today, are among the most aggressively hunted coins in the United States market. Now here's where things get interesting, and honestly, a little uncomfortable. Most people believe wealth announces itself loudly. Fancy cars. Big houses. Flashy investments. But true hidden wealth? It whispers. It hides in overlooked details. Like a mint error so subtle that millions of Americans unknowingly held potential fortunes and spent them on coffee. Think about that for a second. A penny that could pay off a mortgage, traded for a stick of gum. Painful, isn't it? That's the fear most collectors feel, and it's exactly why demand for the 1952 wheat penny has exploded. Collectors today aren't just buying copper. They're buying scarcity, precision, and mistakes that can never be repeated. Certain 1952 wheat pennies exhibit striking mint errors such as dramatic die cracks, off-center strikes, double design elements, and rare planchet anomalies that survived circulation and time. When these errors meet pristine preservation, certified grading, and documented provenance, prices don't climb slowly. They jump. They shock. They make headlines. And when one crosses the auction block, phones light up, bidding wars ignite, and suddenly everyone wishes they had looked more closely at their change years earlier. Let me break your attention for a second with a simple question. Be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny, really looked at it? Not just the year, but the mint mark, the texture, the strike, the weight, the tiny details others ignore. Most people don't. And that's exactly why this market favors those who pay attention. Wealth rarely goes to the loudest voice in the room. It goes to the one who notices what others overlook. Act 2 is where opportunity turns into urgency. Over the last decade, the coin market has undergone a quiet transformation. Baby boomers and seasoned collectors are liquidating estates. Younger investors are fleeing volatile markets and turning to tangible assets. And rare U.S. era coins, especially Lincoln wheat pennies with documented mint anomalies, are being absorbed at an unprecedented rate. Supply is shrinking. Demand is accelerating. And once elite collectors lock these coins into private vaults, they don't come back out for decades. This is why the 1952 wheat penny has moved from curiosity to obsession. High-end buyers are not looking for average examples. They are hunting for perfection mixed with mistake. Coins that should not exist, yet do. Coins that tell a story of human error frozen in copper. Coins that separate casual collectors from serious money. When a top-tier specimen appears, certified and authenticated, the market doesn't ask politely. It competes aggressively. And six-figure prices are no longer shocking. They're expected. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. If someone offered you a scratch-off lottery ticket with worse odds than being struck by lightning, you'd probably laugh. But if I told you there's a realistic chance that a coin you already own could be worth more than your annual salary, suddenly that laughter disappears, doesn't it? That's the difference between gambling and awareness. One drains money. The other uncovers it. By Act 3, we arrive at the moment most people either act, or regret. The window is narrowing. As information spreads, the advantage shifts. Coins that once slipped through unnoticed are now being pulled from circulation, graded, and locked away. Every year that passes, fewer remain unexamined. And the biggest mistake you can make right now is assuming you'll check later. Later is expensive. Later is regret. Later is watching someone else cash in on what you once held. This isn't about hype. It's about preparation. It's about understanding that wealth sometimes arrives disguised as something ordinary. A 1952 wheat penny doesn't look powerful. It doesn't feel heavy in your hand. But in the current market, when paired with the right era and condition, it commands respect, competition, and life-changing money. And the people winning aren't lucky. They're informed. They're decisive. And they understand timing. So here's the quiet truth, delivered with urgency and optimism. If you have old pennies, inherited collections, forgotten jars, or rolls tucked away somewhere, you are holding more than nostalgia. You are holding potential leverage. Potential freedom. Potential wealth that doesn't rely on Wall Street moods or digital speculation. And the demand is real. The buyers are serious. The clock is moving. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown coin sits quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in the garage. It doesn't shine. It doesn't scream for attention. Yet this single penny has sold for as much as $648,000. And here's the unsettling question that should stop you cold for a second: what if you've already held this coin in your hand and didn't even know it? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could completely change how you see every old penny you've ever ignored. this is the story of the 1952 wheat penny, a coin most people dismiss as ordinary, yet one that has quietly become one of the most hunted error coins in American numismatics. At first glance, it looks harmless, even boring. Abraham Lincoln on the front, wheat stalks on the back, and a small S mint mark beneath the date. But history has a way of hiding wealth in plain sight, and this coin is a master of disguise. During the early 1950s, America was rebuilding, factories were overworked, minting equipment was aging, and quality control was far from perfect. And that chaos gave birth to errors that today are worth more than luxury homes. Now let's pause for a second, because this is where most people mentally check out. They think, I've seen wheat pennies before, nothing special. That belief is exactly why collectors are quietly winning while everyone else is losing. The truth is, not all wheat pennies are equal, and the 1952 S is a prime example of how rarity, condition, and minting mistakes collide to create explosive value. Coins from the San Francisco Mint that year were struck in lower quantities, and when errors slipped through, they slipped through big. We're talking about off-center strikes, die cracks, weak strikes, and rare planchet anomalies that serious buyers fight over at auction. Here's the part that should create a little urgency in your chest. These coins are not being made again. They are not being rediscovered in large hordes. And every year, more of them disappear into permanent private collections. That means fewer available, more competition, and higher prices. It's simple economics, but most people don't act until it's too late. And let me ask you something, just to reset your attention for a second. If someone offered you a winning lottery ticket and said, it's already in your house, would you at least look for it, or would you say you're too busy? Act 1 is about awareness, and now you're aware. But Act 2 is where emotion takes over. Because behind every six-figure coin sale is a human story. Retirees who sold a single penny and paid off debt. Families who found financial breathing room. Ordinary people who realized they were sitting on hidden wealth while worrying about inflation, rising costs, and uncertain futures. This is not about fantasy. This is about preparation meeting opportunity. And collectors know this. Dealers know this. High net worth buyers know this. The only people who usually don't know are the ones holding the coins. Let's talk demand, because demand is everything. The 1952 wheat penny with verified mint errors has become a trophy piece. Not a maybe. Not a gamble. A trophy. When examples appear in high grade or with dramatic errors, bidding wars happen fast. Prices escalate emotionally, not logically. And that's when numbers like $648,000 stop sounding crazy and start sounding inevitable. Humor me for a moment. How many pennies do you think it takes to make that kind of money? The answer is one. Just one, if it's the right one. Now here's the fear trigger most people avoid, but you shouldn't. What if you sell too early? What if you hand a rare error penny to a dealer who shrugs, offers you pocket change, and flips it for a fortune? This happens more often than anyone wants to admit. Knowledge is protection. Awareness is leverage. And the people winning in this market are not smarter, luckier, or richer to begin with. They are simply better informed and more patient. Act 2 continues with a realization that changes everything. This coin is not just copper and history. It's timing. Right now, demand for rare US coins is surging as investors look for tangible assets. Coins don't crash like stocks overnight. They don't evaporate like digital trends. They sit, they age, and they grow in desirability. And the 1952 wheat penny sits in a perfect storm of age, scarcity, and error potential. That's why collectors aren't asking if they want one. They're asking how fast they can get one. Now let's interrupt the pattern again, because attention matters. Quick question. When was the last time you actually checked the pennies in your possession instead of tossing them aside? If the answer is never, you're not alone, and that's exactly why opportunity still exists. Markets reward the prepared, not the distracted. And right now, distraction is everywhere. Act 3 is about decision and action. This is where stories diverge. One path leads to regret, the other to possibility. The people who win in rare coins don't rush blindly, but they also don't hesitate endlessly. They verify, they authenticate, they understand grading, and they position themselves where demand already exists. They don't chase hype, they recognize signals. And the 1952 wheat penny is flashing one of the clearest signals in modern coin collecting. Imagine the confidence of knowing that something you already own has real, measurable demand. Imagine the relief of understanding that wealth doesn't always require starting over, just paying attention. And imagine the excitement of realizing that history has already done the hard part for you. The coin exists. The buyers exist. The prices exist. The only missing piece is awareness and action. This is not about luck. This is about perspective. About seeing value where others see nothing. About understanding that small things can carry massive weight. And yes, it's also about urgency, because every year that passes reduces supply and increases competition. The market doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. It rewards those who move with clarity. So before you dismiss this, before you scroll away, before you tell yourself you'll look someday, remember this. The difference between people who talk about missed opportunities and people who live with financial confidence is often a single decision. A single moment of attention. Welcome to a story where history, opportunity, and urgency collide. Today, we're uncovering the truth behind the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin struck in Denver that has become one of the most aggressively hunted error coins in the United States. This is not about fantasy or lottery dreams. This is about knowledge, awareness, and timing. Because in the world of rare coins, those who act early win big, and those who hesitate usually watch from the sidelines saying, "I had one of those." Let's rewind to Act 1, the origin. In 1954, the Denver Mint was operating at full speed, producing millions of wheat pennies meant for everyday use. These coins passed through grocery stores, gas stations, jukeboxes, and school cafeterias. No one treated them as special. They were tossed, traded, and forgotten. But within that massive production run, a tiny number of coins were born different. Minting errors occurred that were never meant to leave the facility. Wrong pressures. Misaligned dies. Subtle variations that the untrained eye would miss but the trained collector would chase like buried treasure. And here's the irony that makes people laugh nervously: the mint tried to be perfect, and that imperfection is now worth a fortune. Who knew a mistake could outperform a stock portfolio? Now let's talk about why the 1954 wheat penny error is commanding such intense demand today. Serious collectors are not emotional buyers, they are strategic. They chase scarcity, condition, and historical context. Certain 1954 error pennies exhibit dramatic die errors, off-metal strikes, or exceptional doubling that simply should not exist. When these coins appear in high grade, bidding wars erupt. Auction houses don't whisper about them, they spotlight them. Private collectors don't hesitate, they compete. And when the hammer falls, prices like $645,000 become reality. That's not hype, that's the market rewarding rarity. Here's a quick pattern interrupt, because attention matters. Think about this: people check their phone more often than they check their pockets for money. Isn't that strange? We'll scroll for hours chasing entertainment, yet ignore the possibility that real wealth could be hiding in plain sight. Funny, until you realize how expensive that habit can be. Act 2 is where the tension rises. Because now comes the fear, and it's a healthy one. Every year, thousands of valuable wheat pennies are lost forever. They're spent unknowingly, damaged through cleaning, or melted down without a second thought. And once they're gone, they're gone. The supply shrinks. Demand grows. Prices rise. That's how markets work. So when someone casually says, "Oh, it's just a penny," seasoned collectors wince. Because dismissiveness is the enemy of wealth. The truth is, the difference between someone who benefits from rare coins and someone who doesn't is not luck. It's awareness. Now let me excite you for a moment. The 1954 D-Week penny is not ancient. It's not locked away in museums. It's close enough to modern life that it still surfaces in estates, inherited collections, and old rolls that haven't been touched in decades. That's what makes it so powerful. This is not a closed door. This is a narrowing window. And people who understand that are moving quickly, quietly, and confidently. Another quick reset: if someone handed you a lottery ticket and said, "You already own it, you just need to check the numbers," would you wait? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what happens with rare pennies every single day. Opportunity doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes it sits silently, waiting for the right person to pay attention. Act 3 is where everything connects, and where decisions are made. Because the individuals who profit from coins like the 1954 D-Week penny are not gamblers. They are thinkers. They respect condition. They verify authenticity. They consult professionals. And when they discover something special, they don't rush to tell everyone at a barbecue. They move strategically. This is why rare coins are increasingly viewed not just as collectibles, but as alternative assets. Tangible. Portable. Historically proven. And immune to many of the uncertainties that shake traditional markets. There is also a deeper emotional layer here. Many people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s are re-evaluating what wealth really means. It's not just money, it's security, freedom, legacy. The idea that something passed down from a parent or grandparent could transform a family's future is powerful. Coins carry stories. And sometimes, those stories come with commas. Let's add a touch of humor, because even serious money deserves a smile. Isn't it ironic that we protect our smartphones with cases, passwords, and cloud backups, yet leave potential six-figure coins rattling around in jars? Maybe it's time we flip that logic. Literally, the demand for high-grade 1954 D-Week penny errors is not slowing down. As more collectors enter the market and more coins disappear into permanent collections, availability tightens. And when availability tightens, prices don't politely ask permission to rise, they surge. This is why timing matters. Not panic. Not hype. Timing. So here's the positive truth. If you own old pennies, you are not late. You are early, if you act wisely. Knowledge is leverage. Awareness is power. And patience, combined with the right guidance, can turn something overlooked into something extraordinary.